Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your AutoTrail Cheyenne. It's the SE, and I think it's a 634 2006. So starting at the bonnet, we've got your engine battery on the left hand side over here. A couple of little fuses and relays just tucked in here, and that's for your your split charge relay, which I'll mention a bit later on. You've also got your brake fluid attached to the servo just down the back. Power steering fluid in this reservoir just at the front. Engine oil dipstick is this yellow topped one there, and your engine oil goes in through this top cap just here. Engine coolant is this sort of green coloured stuff just up here in this reservoir at the top. Obviously that's just an overflow tank for your actual radiator, so the radiator's fluid will be completely separate just down there. Your air filter sits inside this box just here, and your washer fluid is inside this little cap down here. Other than that, I think it's about it for under the bonnet. I mean, you've got a couple of fuses and relays under here and in this box as well, but that's all sort of Fiat stuff, so you haven't got to worry about that at all. Its MOT and service has all been completed already, and the habitation check as well, so I'll go through and show you everything on the inside as well, but we'll just go around the outside first. Your diesel filling cap is this one just here, and you need the ignition key to go in there to open that up. And to actually open the locker up, you just push on this left hand side and that'll open it up. Not much to show you inside the passenger door, as is quite normal. Electric window, and to be honest, that's about it. So I'll show you around the other side obviously as well, to show you what's in the cab, but we'll just carry on this near side for now. So your leisure battery sits down here. This is a new leisure battery, it's been replaced. The old one was completely knackered, to be honest. So yeah, that's that down there. Just inside the door, we've got your step switch just there. So if you wanted to open the step up like it is now, you can do that just with this left hand switch just there. These two vents just here are for your fridge. So if, like me, you've got the fridge lit up on gas, you can feel hot air coming out through the top of this vent just here, and you can see the little bobbly bit inside there is the sort of the end of the exhaust, so you can sort of double check that it's definitely lit up from that. External aerial point just down here, and you've also got an external barbecue point. So if you've got your gas on and you turn this dial around to the left so that it's facing in line with the pipe and pop something on the end of it, you'll have gas coming out from there, and that's why they call it a barbecue point, because you normally have a barbecue attached to it. You do need to make sure that you give it that little extra clip over when you close these up, because otherwise they flap around on the motorway. It's quite annoying. Freshwater inlet, so that's this cap just up here. To lock that up, push in and round to the right until it sort of laps over like that, and then you want to get your key, which will be this circular key in there, and then just turn it whichever way it will go, and then take the key out. That'll then stop you from being able to take that out. Underneath the back, you've got your freshwater drain. So if I just turn that like that, fresh water, and then it stops completely. So at the very back, I've also got your boiler on at the moment as well. So that's another way you can double check that's definitely lit, is by putting your hand either side up here. You can also see a little bit of condensation building up in there, which is completely normal. So just make sure that you double check that if you want to. Gas locker. The gas locker on this van, and a lot of the AutoTrails, has got a lever underneath this seat just here. So I'll show you where that is, but basically there's not much for you to worry about in here. All you need to know is that anti-clockwise on the top of the bottle to turn it on, and clockwise round to the right to turn it off. And yeah, that's about it. It's reasonably new pigtail on there. I think we should have written it on the habitation sheet what the age is, but I'll leave that open just for a minute so I can switch it off when we're done with the video. External water point. So you've got hot and cold water that you can get out from here. So yeah, that's nice and simple. You literally just push it on like a sort of air fitting, and then away you go. Your hookup point is this one just down here. So if you had access to a hookup cable, it's really handy for keeping your leisure battery topped up. If not, don't worry too much. You've got a new leisure battery anyway. But if you can't take it out for a drive every now and again, you do need to hook it up every once in a while just to keep the battery topped up. But I'll get back over like that. Down underneath here, you've got your actual exhaust for the engine and your wastewater drain. So you see the water just slowly dripping out from there. That's because I've had the water on for a little bit, going down the sink. So you can turn that by literally turning that little lever there so it's facing upright, and then I'll switch it off. So that's your wastewater drain. We got your toilet cassette locker. So you've got a freshwater flush on here, so that's what this pipe is on the left hand side. And what that means is you don't have to worry about any sort of separate flush fluid, any pink fluid or anything like that. To take the toilet cassette out, lift up on this little yellow lever at the bottom and literally just pull towards you, and that'll come all the way out. The only thing to point out really is you've got a little yellow button at the very back there. When you're emptying this out from here, you need to hold that little yellow button down, because it's like an air pressure release valve. So yeah, inside the cab, it's quite a nice spec cab. So electric adjusting mirrors, so that works on this sort of dial here. You choose which mirror you want to move, and then you use it as like a joystick to move it where you want to. Steering column adjustment is this one just here, so you literally pull that up and then you can move your steering wheel wherever you want it. And you then got that one down there as well, which is your bonnet release. If I just jump in a sec. So you've got a single DIN little head unit up there, which I don't know, so you've got CD, MP3, all the bits and pieces like that. Obviously the heated rear window switch just here won't work because the original heated rear window isn't here anymore because it's been converted into a motorhome, sorry. So just bear that in mind. Front and rear fog lights, hazard lights, just there. The bits in the middle here are obviously just your heater settings, so you've got fan speed setting, temperature, all that sort of stuff. You've got a 5-speed manual gearbox where reverse is lift up on the back, over and up to the top left. Your lights turn on this left-hand stalk just here, so side lights, main beam, and obviously indicators as well. Washers and wipers on the right-hand side. And that's about it really for the cab. These vans drive really nicely as well, so yeah, just bear in mind. Okay, so, and by the way, that's so nice, I've been able to just walk straight through from the cab. That is handy. Right, so I'll show you the control panel inside the van first. It's probably the easiest way to go about it. So you've got a main on and off switch just up here on the top left. So if I turn that off, anything 12 volt inside the van, so your lights, pump, fans, things like that will all stop working. You've then got pump, so I've got the pump switch on at the moment, and aux, which is basically anything extra 12 volt that you may want to use. This one up here, you haven't really got to worry about that. That basically just switches the power from running from the leisure to the vehicle battery, so you don't really want to do that. So leave that one off. Up here, if you click up, it'll go through and it'll tell you all your battery levels. And you've got timers, alarms, things like that, clock. You want to leave that pump select on internal because unless you want to use your external water point, then you change it over to external. Wastewater level, so you've got nothing in the wastewater, that's because it's open at the moment. And you've got 75% in your freshwater tank. And then there you go, so that's your battery levels. So that's your control panel, nice and easy. So when you come into the van, to first use it, those three on are the main ones. And then just come to your sink here, pull your water through, obviously assuming you've got some water in your tank. And if the water starts coming through nicely like that, you can switch it off and you know that it's good on the cold side. And then you also want to go over to the hot side, pull the water through again, still coming through nicely, no sort of air or coughing or anything like that. Switch it off again, and that's it. So that's the only way to know that your boiler is full of water and there's not air in the system, basically. All right, so that's really, really important to know that. You need to do that before you start using your boiler and things like that, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. You really, really have to do that. Another thing I'll point out just whilst we're here is that all motorhomes are different, but there's one thing that's in common is that they will not drain as quickly as a house does. All right, you probably see that just there. It doesn't drain quickly because they can't, because they've got to go from here across the van sort of horizontally and then over to the waste tank, if you know what I mean. Because, you know, with a house, it goes straight out, down, and then down into the sewer. But with this, it has to go at all sorts of funny angles, and that's why they don't drain out very quickly. There's not a huge amount you can do about it, if I'm totally honest. So just bear with it when it's draining out sometimes. Right. So that's the sink. So that's you know, really, really important. This is going to be a reasonably long video, by the way, because there are sort of bits and pieces all over the place that I just need to show you. So up on the right hand side here, you've got this one here which says Ultra Store, and this one here which says Ultra Heat. So we're going to forget about the Ultra Heat one for a minute. Ultra Store, this one just here, is your boiler, so heating up your water on gas only. All right. There is a way of using it on electric, but I'll show you that in a minute. So all you have to do, I'll switch it off now. So that's off. All you have to do to switch it on is choose your temperature and switch it on. Like that. It really is as easy as that. So then after about half an hour or so, you'll have some nice hot water. It will turn itself off when it gets to that temperature, so just bear that in mind. But yeah, the next two buttons just here, do your lights over the top. So that's how they work. I'll switch them off for now. And the one on the right hand side, Ultra Heat, is how to heat the van up via this space heater, but by electric only. All right, so again, I will have to show you how to do this, but basically this will obviously only work when your electric hookup is plugged in, and you need to have this little switch here in the on position. All right, so you can leave that, I know you can see there it's in the on position now. The reason that's in the on position now is because you can leave that exactly how it is, and when you plug a hookup cable in, that will light up. But all that does is it allows you to use this switch up here. All right, so on that plug down there, it will say Ultra Heat on it, and obviously this one says Ultra Heat on it as well, so you can sort of marry them up. But like I said, you can leave that switch on all the time, even if you're going to put a hookup cable in, because your Ultra Heat switch up here is what sort of tells it what to do. So if you leave it in this off position, it won't be doing anything, even if that switch down there is on. So as long as you're plugged in and the switch down there is on, you can choose 500, 1000 or 2000, which is the amount of watts it wants to use. And basically there's just 3 elements in the back of there. They'll warm up and then you can just have the heating via that. So for the most part, you want to leave that in the off position, and well, you want to leave that in the off position until you want to use it, definitely. But yeah, make sure that you turn that off, because if you plug a hookup cable in and leave that switch on and forget that you've got that on up there, they get seriously, seriously hot. So just bear that in mind. So hot water on gas only, heating on electric only. And if I just show you again, if I just zoom in on that, Ultra Store switch just down there. There is also another switch over there on the right hand side, which is your fridge, so you can just leave that exactly where it is as well, because, you know, like I said, when you plug a hookup cable into the van, I mean, I'll go through this with you in a minute, the fridge side of things, but yeah. Okay, so the heater is just here. It's a space heater, and it's an Ultra Heat by Truma. So it's pretty simple how it actually works. So like I showed you already, plug a hookup cable in, leave that switch on inside there. If you want to use it on electric only, use the Ultra Heat switch up there above the door. If you want to use it on gas instead, which I've got it lit up on gas at the moment, you see the flame down there through that little peephole, then it's even easier, to be honest. Obviously you have to have your gas on, But all you need to do from there, if I just turn it off now, so I'll just go all the way around to the left, go around there, like that. So that is off now, and you'll see down there, no flame anymore, completely off. I'll show you how to light it up in a sec, but you've got on this right hand side here, don't worry about the A, I wouldn't bother with that, it's an automatic way of using it, but I've never been too keen on it. Just push it to the left, and then you can choose, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's basically a fan just inside there, which you can probably see, just see the little circle bit just above the actual fins. There's a fan at the back, and then basically that pumps around the air to all of these little vents around here. So that's what this pipe is in this cupboard. So there's that one there, there's one behind me, there's one in the bathroom, and there's probably one pointing towards the front seats as well. I'm not 100% sure, but there probably is. So once you've had this on for any amount of time, I would definitely recommend to leave this fan running for sort of 5 minutes or so once you've finished. The reason for that is these heaters get so unbelievably hot that when you switch them off and you don't put this fan on, you would be amazed how hot they get. That's obviously brilliant because it sends out loads of nice warm air to all these vents, but not so good if you for sort of like burning your hand on touching it and things like that. So like if I switch this off now, this fan off now, a massive load of heat would come out through the front of this rather than being sucked out through the back and put around sort of evenly around the van. So make sure that you leave that on for a little bit once you've finished. But if I just show you how to light it up, you've got an electronic ignition, so you haven't even got to worry about pushing an igniter or anything like that. Literally all you have to do is turn this little dial round, you'll hear the igniter, and if you watch, all I'm going to do, I've had it on for a little while now, so I'll just turn it right up. All I need to do is push that down now. If you watch down there, the flame lights up straight away, that's your pilot flame. And then what will happen is, when I lift this up, turn it right the way around. Well, there you go, that's something to show to you. So basically I've had this on for about half an hour now, and because it's so hot inside it already, the main flame won't light up. So you've got the pilot flame and the main flame won't even light. That's because it's so hot inside it already. But basically that's it. That is all you need to do. You literally just turn it around and push down around sort of like, and this is if you're starting from off basically. Turn it around to sort of 2 or 3 and push down and hold. You'll see that it lights up down that inside that hole, and then just slowly let it up, and then you should hear the main flame kick in and actually see it as well. If when you do that it goes out and starts clicking again, just keep doing it. Just keep pushing down again and lifting up, pushing down again, lifting up. You can also try turning it up a little bit, pushing down, lifting up, but it is so simple. You'll get the hang of it straight away. It's just that sometimes when it's cold outside, they do struggle to sort of stay lit at the very start. But once you've done it sort of 5-6 times, that sort of number, it should stay on. And once they're on, they're on. You got a little bit of access to stuff down here, but you don't really need to see any of that, to be honest. It's all just kind of pipe work. The only thing I would show you is that you've got these 3 gas isolator taps just down there. So the top one there says barbecue, that's your external barbecue point. The middle one is your fridge on gas, and the bottom one is your space heater on gas. So if you were worried and thought there was something wrong with any of these appliances, you can isolate them there just by turning them 90 degrees. You have got a little diagram there. So basically what that's telling you is gas comes in from the pipe. If you have it so that it's facing away from the direction of the pipe, then that means it's off. If it's facing the direction of the pipe, it's on. So that's the space heater. I've shown you how to use it on gas and how to use it on electric. I'm going to leave that fan running just for a minute, just because it is still really, really hot. Right, the fridge. The fridge works 3 different ways. It works on gas, 240 volts, so your electric hookup, or 12 volt, which is when your engine's running. So basically, it's, well, pretty much the most simple and probably one of the more reliable fridges. All you have to do, so if you want to light it up on gas, which by the way is probably the most efficient way to get it cold, so the quickest way of getting it cold. All you have to do, make sure that your gas is switched on in your locker, and then literally just turn this dial here. You've got an electronic ignition, so it literally sparks itself, it lights up itself, and as long as that little amber light there stays without flashing, then it's lit. You can obviously go out and check like I showed you on the outside if you want to, but it is as simple as that. The other way to use it, if you had a hookup plugged in, you can go down to 240, and if there was a hookup plugged in, that would be showing up green now. So the gas and the 240 are the only two ways that will get the fridge cold on its own. So basically what I mean is the next one down is 12 volts, so that's for when your engine's running, so that's basically just for when you're driving. It won't work otherwise, but that won't get the fridge cold on its own. You have to make sure that the fridge is already cold, either via the 240 or the gas, and then switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving, and then switch back over to one of those two when you get there. That's because the 12 volt and the 240 are basically they're basically the same. They've got an element in the back. The difference is the 240 volt one is much, much bigger than the 12 volt. So 12 volts there basically just to hold temperature. So essentially, if you were going to go away tomorrow, or if I was going to go away in this van tomorrow, I would probably switch it over to 240 volt with a hookup plugged into the van overnight with all your stuff in it. And then by the morning, all you have to do is come in here, switch over to 12 volt, and then be on your way. So it's nice and simple. To open it up, you've got a little catch just up here. So if you leave it in the unlock position, close it, and then you can lock it up like that. That's up to you. But yeah, so that's the fridge. We'll leave that off now. I will also turn off your water heater on gas now, because I've just realised it's turning itself on and off, so it must be up to temperature. So if I just show you now, I'm not sure if you actually be able to see. It might be a little bit, might not be hot enough to actually see on camera. Oh no, you see there so I literally had that on. I put this on about 10 minutes before this video, so what, like half an hour? So yeah, perfect boiler on that. So what else have we got? I'll show you other bits and pieces. So under the bed is all quite important. So if I just or under the seating area, sorry, if I just show you, I should probably have done this before I started the video, but there we go. Right, so this is your boiler under here. What I want to show you is probably, I would say probably one of the most important parts, well, it probably is the most important part really, which is this little yellow lever down here. So that's what drains the water out from your boiler. If you try to light this boiler up and that drain tab's open and there's nothing in the boiler, you're going to run into some serious issues where, you know, it'll overheat, or, you know, wires will burn out and things like that. Exactly the same way as if you tried to if you switched on your kettle at home and there was no water in it, it would be the same. It would just sort of melt and get too hot. This boiler is probably the most expensive and important part of the entire van. So it is really important to look after it. And that's what I was saying at the start, when you turn your pump on, if you turn it over to the hot and nothing comes out the tap, it usually means one of two things. Either you've got no water in the tank at all, or that little lever down there is open and the water's just pumping out underneath. So the reason that's there, by the way, is if you're not going to be using the van and it's going to get to sort of 2-3 degrees or lower than that, you need to drain the boiler out of water, because if you leave the water, that's the other thing, if you leave the boiler full up with water and all of these pipes down here are all pressurized and got, you know, full of water, and they freeze, the water inside it will expand and break the pipes and break all these connections down here. So you'll end up with leaks, or, you know, you'll end up with a broken boiler. So you need to make sure, if you're not going to use the van over winter, you have to drain the boiler out from there, from that little yellow tab. And to do it, you literally just lift it upright so it's vertical, and it'll just drain all of the water out. It is also really important, I mean, that, like I said, that's the most important part, but if you're going to do that, if you're not going to use the van for a little while and it's going to be freezing cold, you do also need to drain out your freshwater tank as well, which, like I showed you, is that little blue one at the back of the van. But I just wanted to show you that because that's why I showed you about how to pull the water through, just to double check. Because if you light the boiler up with no water in it, you're going to be seriously upset when, you know, because things do go wrong and it is ugly. So make sure that you drain that out if you're not going to use it. If you know that it's going to get too cold when you're not in it. I mean, the reason I say when you're not in it is because if you have your heating on and things like that, you know, you're not going to have to do that because it will be warm enough, you know, so it won't freeze. But it's, yeah. But there you go. Just thought I'd show you that. I'll put this back properly in a minute, but so just down here, again, quite an important part of the van. You've got a couple of important parts. So you've got this, which is your awning winder. Unfortunately, I can't really show you the awning winding out because I've only got one hand with the video. So it's pretty simple stuff. You literally just pop this end into the awning on the left-hand side, wind it out as far as you can go until you can grab it. Open up the little cap, which is the outside part of the awning, and then you'll see there's two legs. You basically just pop them out, pull them down, and put them on the floor, lock them in place. The legs will probably have a little hole in the bottom of each leg as well, which you can put a little tent peg through if you want to. But it's all pretty simple stuff. You'll work that out. So the water pump is there at the very back. So if you ever needed to get to that, it's there. So that's a shore flow water pump. So that's a pump that works on pressure. And the other thing I wanted to show you, which is really important, if you can see it on the video, I think you can, is this switch under here. So that one there, you probably can't see it on the video, but that will say Ultra Store on it. So like the Ultra Store up above the door, that's your boiler. So I've shown you how to light the boiler up on gas, but if you wanted to light the boiler, well, heat the water up inside the boiler via the electric hookup only, all you have to do is literally switch that button on when the electric hookup's plugged in, and then that'll just automatically start to heat your water up. Now the reason that's off, by the way, is because you have to turn that one off when you're not using it. That's so important. And especially because it's in a place that you don't really see it. If you plug a hookup cable into the van and the boiler is empty, for example, and you forget that that switch is on, it'll do exactly the same thing as I was saying before about lighting the boiler up with no water in it. So essentially it is the same as turning a kettle on with no water inside it. So you have to make sure that you leave that one off unless you're using it and unless you know that the boiler is full. All right, but I'm not trying to scare you with those things. I'm just saying that the boiler is literally the most important part. So you got to treat it as such. So, right, I'll turn off this fan now. Back into the middle. Okay, so the next bit, got your oven. It's all nice and simple. Oven is this bottom part just down here. Then you've got the grill with the grill pan in it. Obviously the grill needs to be sort of open like this if you want to be using it. But basically it's all pretty simple stuff. You've got an igniter up here which does the 3 burners, the grill and the oven. They've all got their own individual little diagram on them. So you've got oven, grill, top right, bottom left. So like I said, if you want to light up this one, for example, I would like that. This van is such a high spec. I mean, there's nothing in this van that I know of that other vans don't have. I mean, this is literally like the highest spec thing I've ever seen. You've got electric and gas on the boiler, electric and gas on the heater, electric and gas. I mean, this is an electric hot ring on the, on the cooker, electric and gas on the fridge. It's, everything. So if you had a hookup plugged into the van, you could turn this dial here. It goes from 1 to 6, 1 starting all the way through to 6 this way. And that's basically, like I said, it's just a hot plate at the back. So if your hookup's plugged in, you can use that back there if you want to. So that's that. The only thing I'd advise you with that, I mean, it's all I don't need to go through much of this with you because it is just literally like a household cooker. The only thing I will tell you or ask you to do is don't shut this lid straight after turning off any of the appliances, whether that be the oven, the grill, or any of these burners. Well, definitely not the burners at the top. Leave them for 10 minutes or so after you've used them before closing that glass down, because what happens is, and what I've seen plenty of times, is that people put these lids down straight after using them. It's cold on the top, hot on the bottom, and the entire thing, you'd be amazed how much of a mess it makes. The entire thing just shatters, you know, all the way across. Not just like crack, I mean, the entire thing, it shatters. So make sure that you leave that up for a little while after using any of these, or the hob, or the grill, or the oven, sorry. Reason being, the grill's vent is right here, and the oven's vent is here. So any which one of those will, you know, heat the glass up if you put it down too quickly. Microwave at the top, that has been tested as part of the habitation check. It's basically just plugged in at the very back up there. So, you know, again, that's pretty simple stuff. I'll close that down, and I'll close this down. Only a couple more bits to show you. So we've got the bathroom in here. So just in case you weren't aware, you've got a switch for both the lights up here. So that's underneath here, and that basically turns both of those on. You can switch this shower one off so that it doesn't come on when you turn it on like that, or you can just leave it on so that it works with that switch under the under there if you want to. It's up to you. Bit of storage underneath here under the sink. I don't need to show you the taps because they're, you know, it's the same as any, to be honest. So the toilet, nice and simple. The actual top turns around like this if you want it to. So that's like that. And you've got a flush button at the back. So push that button down and your flush fluid just pumps around into the toilet. And then you've got your drain, which is this one back here. So that opens up the flap and allows whatever's inside to go into the cassette. You have to make sure that you close that back over like I've just done there, for two reasons. If you don't close it back over, you'd be amazed how bad the smell is coming into the van. And also, if you don't close it over and you leave it in the open position, you won't be able to take the cassette out from outside in the locker. It locks it in place completely. So that's important. Switch your lights off. And I think the last thing to show you, so up here you've not got anything really, it's all just sort of storage. I mean, but you know, a huge amount of storage. But down here is really important. So sometimes in the AutoTrails you'll find that this whole section is up in one of these higher cupboards, but in this one it's down here in this big wardrobe. So all of this stuff on the right hand side is all sort of like TV aerial related. We don't really go through a huge amount of that in the hab checks, so that's kind of, you know, there'll be paperwork for that kind of thing, and you can sort of have a look through it and decide whether or not you want to use that or not, but that's up to you. But the important part really is this EC200 Sergeant unit. So that's your PSU, so it's your power supply unit. So down here on the left hand side you've got this big diagram here, so if you wanted to you could have a little look through that, a little read through it. What that does is it tells you exactly what each one of these fuses down here does. So you've got blue front lights, blue rear lights, you know, all that sort of stuff. And it also tells you what colour and ampage the fuses need to be. So you can go through there. If you find, you know, obviously let us know if you get any issues, but if you're actually away and you can't get to us, or you can't, you know, for whatever reason, if your lights stop working, you know, all the lights don't work, I would go through and I would check one of the first two fuses just here, because it says lights and lights. You know, so you literally just pop these little caps off, pull the fuse out, double check it. If it's okay, put it back and, you know, give us a ring and say my lights aren't working or whatever. All right, but like I said, that's only really, you can look through that if you want to, you know, if you feel, you know, up to it, but obviously let us know if you get any problems anyway. That's just there if you want to. The next bit is this switch up here, so you can leave that on all the time if you want to. All it does is it basically turns the charger on. So that will only work when your hookup's plugged in. So as soon as you put a hookup in at the moment, this will light up red, and your leisure battery, which I've shown you just sits in that locker just there behind here, will basically just start charging up. If you don't want the charger to work, which by the way the charger sits inside this system, you can just switch that off and then it'll stop. But for the most part, you're going to want to leave that on, because when you plug a hookup into the van, it's usually mainly because you want to charge the battery up. Under here, you've got your RCD and MCBs, which again has got a little diagram here telling you exactly what they do. So heater is number 2, fridge, boiler and charger and lights, they're all number 3, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, again, it's kind of like the gas isolator taps. If you thought that your hob ring on your oven was playing up, you can have a little look in there, socket, outlets and hob, and you can just switch off number 1. And then you can forget about it and then let us know. All right, so that's just there. If you want to do that, you can do that. So that's about it really. That's your Sergeant unit. Like I said, you want to leave that on most of the time, because when you plug a hookup into the van, you probably want it to start charging. But yeah, that's about it. I think the only thing I was going to mention to you was about the split charger. So basically what a split charger does, the alternator, when you start the engine up, the alternator starts charging your engine battery, which I showed you under the bonnet. And then from there, you've got a split charger. So what happens is, essentially the engine battery gets charged up, and then there's signal or power voltage running from the engine battery over to the leisure. And so when you're driving or the engine's running, both batteries are being charged up. So the idea of that is, if you're going to go on holiday, drive to wherever you're going, you know, drive to wherever, when you get there, engine and leisure batteries will both be at, you know, maximum power basically. And it also means that you can use your fridge on 12 volt to hold that temperature, like I was saying before. So that's about that. I think I've shown you everything I can, and sorry it's been a bit of a long video, but there's, you know, quite a lot of bits and pieces that I needed to show you under here and where the boiler is and all that sort of stuff. But the main things really, when you come into the van, like I said to you, the most important part in my opinion, come up here, switch your pump on, and then just make sure that your water comes through. See, there you go, look, that's a good example. Because I've had the boiler on and it's heated up and it's made a bit of space, where I switched it on just then and that sort of coughing sort of thing happened, if that happens but it doesn't get any better like it did just then, that means that your boiler is not quite full. All right, so the reason that it coughed like that is because the boiler wasn't quite full, because it's got so hot and then it's cooled down again. All right, if that makes sense. So you have to make sure that you do that before you start trying to light your boiler up. So do that. If your gas is on already, that you switched on in the locker, you can go ahead and start using all your gas appliances like I've showed you. But make sure that you switch them all off before you start driving. So switch that one all the way around to the 0. Make sure all of your hobs are off. Make sure that your fridge is in the 12 volt position if you're going to start driving, or off if you're just going to leave the van. Make sure that your boiler is in its off position and ultra heat, and then switch your gas off, free bottle. And that's about it really. When you're actually going to leave the van, you want to switch these off. Yeah, that's about it. So I must admit, this van is absolutely lovely. We didn't have to do a huge amount to it. It's just, you know, general bits and pieces, catches, stays, that kind of thing. But you'll really enjoy this van, and yeah. So if you think I've missed anything out, or you want anything covering again, just let us know. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.